Hey YouTube, today I am here with my friend Millennial Money Mom. I met her through Facebook and she watches us on YouTube and we got to meet each other at ASD. And she is a newer seller compared to me. And I thought it would be a great idea to have somebody on like herself that can discuss her struggles and things that you experience when you are a newer seller. So, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for coming on to talk to YouTube Land.
Thank you for having me, Tina. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, let's just jump right in and tell people a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what made you decide to jump into the world of e-commerce.
So, my name's Melissa, Millennial Money Mom, and I worked in corporate America for about 15 years. And I was so burned out. I was looking for something else to do. I actually created my Amazon account, I think almost 3 years ago.
So you were
But
still working when you created it.
yes,
Yeah.
but then I never took any action because I couldn't figure out how to get started. So I kept hearing, just scan everything, scan on your phone. So I would go through the motions and I would request for approval. And then I couldn't figure out how to list anything, right? I kept just going in circles because I was just using the Amazon Seller Central app on my phone. And so several months ago, I decided to take a different job for a real estate marketing company, and that was a lot of fun. And I met my friend Isabella, and we were talking, and she goes, "Have you ever heard about Amazon FBA?" And I said, "Yeah, I actually have a seller account, but I've never sold anything." And she was telling me about her journey, a little bit different from mine, and we can get into that a little bit later. But then after she mentioned that, it re inspired me to get started with Amazon. So I found somebody online who was teaching a course and I took her course and it just jump started everything for me. I listed my first item while I was on a Zoom call with her and then went from there. And now I'm addicted to it.
Now, when you had your account for those 3 years and you weren't using it, were you actually paying to have the professional account? Were you actually paying that money, or did you have the free one?
I was paying, but I noticed they never billed me until I made my first sale.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, so that's good to know because I think it's definitely worth it to have the professional selling account
It
versus
does.
the
It does make a
individual.
big difference. It does. And I know when I first started selling, things were very, very different. There are definitely a lot more challenges for a newer seller that's starting today. And I think the thing I was the most afraid of in the beginning was, how do you make a shipment? Like, how do you actually get it in a box and get it to Amazon? And I'm sure that was probably a little bit of a scare too. Oh, it looks like your friend Isabella is watching. Hi, Isabella.
Hey,
I don't know if you can see the comments or not
no, I
on your
can't.
end. Oh, okay. Well, I'll let you know.
Okay.
There she is.
Oh, I see.
So, you had your Amazon account, but you didn't get it to where you were working doing Amazon to where you could pivot and stay at home. You just took the plunge and said, I'm not working in corporate America and I'm going to stay at home with the kids and do Amazon full time.
Well, so the other job that I was at, I was working for 400, a 250 Fortune 250 company, and I was a six-figure sales commission earner. And I had a great time working there, but I just got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore, and I wanted to do something different. And so I took a job working for a tech startup company, and that sparked my love of AI and all things tech based,
Yes.
which
I
I know you
love
enjoy.
AI. I don't talk about it enough on YouTube, but I play with it almost on a daily basis.
Yeah, the possibilities is just unlimited with AI. It blows my mind. So I started working there. And then after a few months of doing Amazon, I was like, I'm going all in because I just saw the potential and I've been doing it full time ever since.
And so, what has been your hurdles? Like, what is some of the advice you would tell somebody new that were your hurdles too?
I think a lot of people get hung up with the ungating process,
Mhm.
right? And so for me, I've had to submit invoice sometimes 10, 20 times in order to get approval. So I
Wow.
think that you just can't give up.
And when you're getting your invoices and you're struggling having to submit them 10 times, what is Amazon spitting back to you that why are they denying it?
I feel like every time it's a different reason.
And do you feel like you've mastered how to submit the invoice to Amazon? Did you, because there's advice that I give to coaching students of mine that get rejected. And it seems like the way that I do it works really well. Have you found a way that works well, or you just kind of wing it every time?
I just keep kind of changing it. So the first submission, I will submit the original invoice. And then the second time, I will start to annotate it. So maybe I'll add the ASIN. If that doesn't work, then I'll go back and add an additional annotation and just keep adding things on until they feel like they have all the information they're looking to see.
See, and I do it all from the beginning. So when I get the invoice, if I do it digitally through, like I edit quite a bit in Canva, I use Canva probably as much as AI, but I either annotate in Canva or I print it out and write on it. But I immediately, for my first submission, I circle my name and address. I circle the name and address of that company. If their phone number is missing, I make sure that I add it. Next to the item that I bought, I write in the ASIN that it corresponds with. I also circle the total dollar amount that I paid on that invoice. And I will go so far as to also download my bank statement that shows that transaction on it. And I will circle that, showing that it is a match. And of course, I'm using the bank account or the statement that is attached to my Amazon account for my purchases. And usually that gets me a yes on my very first try. Sometimes I don't do
Wow.
the bank statement part, but I just do the annotating, like I said. If they spit back what something, whatever they want to spit back, I then double up and throw in the bank transaction.
That is a lot of information and thorough. I like it.
It doesn't take long. It really does not take that long. And the reason why I do that is I have had to fight a lot of cases over the years with Amazon. And unlike yourself, who took a course, I didn't take a course in the very beginning. I learned the hard way. Every bad thing that can happen to an Amazon seller has happened to me, even being suspended. I was suspended right before I was leaving my job to do this full time. And I was so scared. I thought, oh my God, what if this had happened and I wasn't already working? And, I've had all the scary things happen to me. And so a lot of the things I've learned, I've had to learn the hard way. But I feel like that has made me a better seller, and it's made me better and able to help others.
I completely agree. And I think over time, the ungating process just gets easier, right? So as I hit 5K a month in sales, I noticed I was getting approved faster. And then once I hit
Yeah.
10K, the approval was faster. And then 20K rolled around and it was like instant approval.
Yeah, the more seasoned you are, Amazon a lot of times just gives you which is called auto ungating. A lot of people find that confusing as what does ungating mean? Because Amazon has such weird terms. And gating and ungating basically means you're not approved and you are approved. Why can't they just use normal words in the English language?
Oh, yeah. They have their own lingo. I love it.
They do have their own lingo. So how long did it take you from going 0 to $5,000 a month?
Probably 1 to 2 months.
So rather quickly. And did you have a big startup money, or did you just start with a little bit of money?
I started with the littlest bit of money. So I actually am a couponer and I've been couponing for my family since 2008. So a lot of the products that I started selling were freebie items that I got from couponing. So they weren't items that were prime for selling, right? It was just something that I was testing.
Mhm.
And then over time, I noticed, oh, I'm not sourcing items that are optimal for selling. I need to change up my strategy if I am going to make this my business. And so then Easter rolled around and I wanted to get in on the Easter candy train. I went
Mhm.
to Dollar Tree and I bought all of the candy. So I was buying items for $1.25 and selling them for 10, 12, $15, and the money just started to compound very fast.
And did you actually send it in to FBA, or were you merchant fulfilling it?
I did send it into FBA, and my husband was so scared because he was watching our inventory like a hawk. He was like, "It's not gonna make it. It's not gonna make it." Because sometimes you have a very short window, especially with the meltable season. And I sold out completely because he thought we were gonna get stuck holding the bag. And I'm like, "No, we're not. We got this."
And
I,
then
you know,
and
I
then you wish you would have bought more sometimes, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so in the very beginning, you were scanning things and you found that you were restricted. So then you looked into, how do I get ungated? How do I get the invoices? And then you did send in your first FBA shipment. Was that hard? Because I remember being petrified of sending in my first shipment. And I want to say my first shipment, it was less than 50 items, definitely. And I remember that shipment took me probably 2 hours to do. It took me so long. Now 50 items, I could whip that out in 30 minutes, right? But that first time you do it, it's overwhelming. How did you learn to do that? And how did you, plug in your Dymo and have, what was your process? Did you do Amazon? Did you get Inventory Lab right away?
Oh my, I had a YouTube video up on one screen and I had Amazon Seller Central in the next screen. And I was just like going through the steps. I'm like, am I clicking the right buttons? What is FN SKU? Where do I put these labels? It definitely was very overwhelming. Luckily, I had my husband to help me, and we both have shipping and logistics backgrounds. So that helped a ton.
Yeah, because in the beginning, I think that is a really scary step. Now, did you use Inventory Lab or were you making your shipment in Seller Central?
Originally Seller Central, I did try Inventory Lab, and for me, I'm not a fan, but I think they have great customer service.
A lot of people don't use Inventory Lab. A great number do, but there are people who don't. So to this day, do you still just do your shipments through Seller Central without a software?
Correct.
And so you use the Dymo, I'm assuming.
I have a generic Rolo from
Oh, okay.
China.
But it's the barcode. So because I have not done a shipment in Seller Central in many, many years. So when I tried it in Seller Central, I had to purchase a third party software. It was very inexpensive. They're no longer around. I do know that. And that would allow me to print out the label on my Dymo. Can you just do that from Amazon with Dymo now from Seller Central? Or do you have to use a software so you can print the stickers out as you're making the shipment?
Oh, you can print them right from your inventory.
So you can do that now.
Yes,
See, back when I first began, you couldn't do such a thing. So is it just a simple button that says print your labels?
exactly.
And are you doing it as you're adding it? If you add like, two of this in Easter candy, then you print it, or is it at the very end and now you're like scrambling to find what goes to what?
We usually batch prep, so as my inventory comes in, we'll prep it, and then once I feel like I have enough to make a large shipment, we'll box everything up.
And is Amazon telling you what warehouse it is in that moment, or do you have to close it out like Inventory Lab and it will either all go to one warehouse or divide it amongst three? In Amazon, does it do that too?
So that is the tricky part. So I won't know where it's going until the end. So
Okay.
you do have to be flexible.
So you can't just be boxing it up as you're doing it. So at the end, it may disperse it to three shipments. Okay.
Exactly.
So it's the same as Inventory Lab. So Cindy says that this is so inspiring. And she asks, so what does gated mean? And so I don't know if you were on earlier, Cindy. Gated means that you are not allowed to sell something, it means you're restricted. So you might scan something on your app and it will say restricted on there. So in Amazon lingo, Amazon calls that you're gated, which means you cannot sell it. So you have to have a valid invoice to get ungated, which basically means it's not going to be restricted, or you are approved now to sell this item.
And that's one thing that I love most about Amazon because there are those barriers to entry, right? Anyone can sell on eBay, anyone can sell on Mercari, and I think those are still great platforms. But because of all of these extra approval process that Amazon sellers have, it makes it so lucrative for us.
Yeah. No, we met at ASD, and that was your first time shopping at ASD. And we ended up getting separated. You went off with some other people, and then the next day we missed each other. But I never did get to follow up. Did you even make a purchase at ASD, or did you just absorb it all and walk away with business cards?
I walked away with a stack of business cards to go through. I might be making a purchase this
Yeah.
weekend. I didn't make one on the site because it was very overwhelming, but I am so glad
Mhm.
that I went.
And then did you make it to the other floors and look through the clothing and the international? Did you look around?
I did, and I even met a vendor when I was standing in the Starbucks line.
Isn't that funny with ASD? I love that.
It was hysterical. So I don't know if this gentleman had a booth there or he just has a company, but he handed me his business card and I will definitely reach out to him.
Yeah, and so I mean, it will make your trip worth it just for that. Plus, we got to have fun conversation over Dunkin' Donuts, coffee there, and you had a friend with you, and that was really fun. And it's really great making connections in person with other sellers because it's how we can help each other. A lot of people have that idea of like, well, I don't want to talk to you or tell you anything because you might steal my idea, or I really have been more successful because I do open myself up to other sellers and make those relationships.
100%. And you said something when we were together that I loved. You said that we can all learn from each other. So no matter
Mhm.
where we're all at in this journey, we can all learn from each other's experiences.
Definitely. You could be a 6-month-old seller and I could still learn something from you. And the reason why I say that is because I have been out with newer sellers, that I've met, and we've gone shopping if they've been here in my city, and their eye will be attracted to something that I might have walked past because I either don't know about that thing because I don't have little kids anymore, so I don't know that that is the toy that every kid wants, or they just happen to have an interest in a thing that's like, "Oh my gosh, I love these. They're normally so expensive." And it may be an item I've never even heard about before. So, we can take what we know in our personal life and use that knowledge to know, like, wow, this is a really good deal on something. Let me scan it and check that out on Amazon. So that's why it really does not matter how long you have been selling. Everybody has different interests, or they know different things. We cannot all know all the things, right?
Absolutely. And it's so funny because I will be having dinner with some of my friends and they'll say, Did you see the Ninja Creamy? Have you seen how much it's selling for on Amazon? I bought it for $100 and I see people selling it for 300. You should sell that.
See, and that's just it. What's funny is the longer that you're a seller, like, because I do eBay as well as Amazon, is my mom might give me something. She'll say, "Oh, here, I found this. This was your grandmother's, or I don't know if you want it." And then she'll say, "But you're not going to sell it on eBay, are you?" Mom, no. If you give me something, I'm never just going to take it and sell it on eBay. So sometimes that's funny when people know you're a seller when they give you stuff.
Well, I mentioned one time to one of our friends, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I need to clean out my garage." And I'm like, "Oh, no, no, no. I sell new products on Amazon. That's not how it works. You can sell used products, but it's
Yeah.
not what I do."
Now if you sold stuff on eBay too, then that would be worth it. And eBay is more like the side hustle to my side hustle, right? So I just think eBay is fun. And so I've never totally given up eBay. I started with eBay before I went into Amazon, is how I got my start. So eBay was my first thing I did. And then I learned about Amazon, and this was back like in 2014. So I've never always given up on eBay. I've always had a little bit going in eBay. It's just been this summer that I got back into trying to list 10 items a week. So it's so minimal. I mean, I do put minimal effort into it, but I feel like it gives my brain a break from the Amazon stuff. And I love treasure hunting in the thrift stores and at yard sales. To me, that's just fun. So, I like it. And I have been making 300 or a little bit more than $300 every month on eBay. And that's my net profit. That's after everything by doing very little work on eBay. I think this week I only listed 2 items, but I end up selling 2 items this week too.
That's amazing.
Yeah, not the 2 I listed, but nonetheless, whenever I list, it does ignite sales. And I think for people who have never done Amazon, eBay can kind of be a safe place to start to get you in the hang of like creating a listing, boxing up a package, shipping it out, just to get you comfortable with that. It's kind of like a nice beginner before you maybe go into Amazon.
Yes, absolutely.
Have you ever listed on eBay?
I don't like it. I don't like
You
the
don't like it?
pictures. It's not for me.
So, well, speaking of that, you sell on Amazon, the listing already exists, so you don't have to make it. But you recently just signed up for our bundles course, where that will include you making a listing. So I'm assuming you're ready to do that now.
I am.
And have you made a listing yet?
Not yet, but I'm ready to do it. And I think just the more skills that you learn, it adds a layer of the depth and complexity, right? Because there's so many people who they'll sell for years and never create their own listing. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to have this added skill set.
Yeah, the more you add to your bag of tricks, it's good. I know that for me, I was tired of being on listings that get flooded or the price tanks, and then I'm just not making as much money, or I'm sitting there, watching this listing like, oh my gosh, the people on this listing is climbing higher and higher, and I love being creative. I'm just a creative person. So creating the bundles was fun to me. Going down the aisle of the store going, "Oh wow, this would look so cool with the, because it's like creating a gift, right? Yeah, when you're going to a kid's birthday party and you don't want to get like just this one thing. You want it to be more exciting. You want that gift bag to have fun little treats and all kind of things going on. So the recipient who gives it is like, "Oh, I love this." And that's the way bundles is for me. It's creating like this fun package. And then once you get good at making listings, it's great because you can price it what you want to price it at to profit. And you don't have to worry about others getting on that listing, price taking it, having competition. It has really increased my profit margins. Most of my sales are 100% ROI or more. I do have some that are 70%, but these are all on my own listings. They're all the ones that I have created. And once I got better at them, where I could make listings that people couldn't hop on, because I made a lot that people did hop on, I made it too easy. Once you get more clever about it, it's like you can really own your own income on Amazon.
Absolutely. And then there's no risk. For me, there are some plush toys that I love to sell, and I'm seeing Amazon taking down the listings left and right. And it could be scary
It can
sometimes.
be scary sometimes, like with Squishmallow, and they want the toy compliance. Now, as a bundler, Amazon's also going to require that from you as well. So if you are buying from a wholesaler, you can ask them ahead of time, do you have the safety compliance paperwork for this? And many of them do. Cindy asks, what is the minimum amount of money you need to start selling on Amazon? That is a very common question that I get. So many people out there tout, oh, you need 5,000, 10,000, or don't even bother. What is your opinion on that?
I think you can get started with whatever you had. Like I mentioned, I bought inventory from the Dollar Tree. Anyone could go to the Dollar Tree.
I started with just a few $100s myself. I also just started with a few $100s, and I rolled everything over because I still had a full time job. And so I wasn't trying to make money on Amazon. I was trying to snowball it so I could replace my income. So when I got my payouts from Amazon, 100% of it went back into Amazon. And I did this for 1 year.
That's dedication.
Well, because I wasn't going to be able to grow it enough to replace my income if I didn't do it that way.
I think a lot of people get held up with, oh, I need to create an LLC and I need to have all of this paperwork. I think if you just get started and you just get moving, the rest will fall into place.
Did you start off as an LLC or did you just start off as just you?
I just started off as just me, and you can
Me
be a
too.
sole proprietor. You don't need to have an LLC.
That's right. That's a very good point. I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't think about that either. I also started out as just a sole proprietor. And then it was probably 2 years later, I became an LLC and got a business checking account. Because how do you know if you're going to be successful or even like it for that matter when you start? And Isabella wants to know what can you guys walk through your product research process for beginners and what makes a product worth listing?
That's a great question,
Mhm,
Isabella.
it is.
I'm going to let you take that, Tina, because you're the product research expert.
Well, I mean, as a newer seller, I'm assuming she wants that perspective. But from a newer seller through today, for me, my product research, first off, I as a beginner, I need to find out, am I restricted on it, right? So my product research process for when I was new, not what I do today, but when I was new, I used to just take one section of a store. You hear people say this on YouTube all the time, where I made mistakes that now I understand is I would go down the row and I would scan, a whole bunch of things and I was either restricted or they weren't profitable and I would get bored. I just got bored and I found it frustrating. It wasn't fun. So then I would just dart around different areas. I had no rhyme or reason. So then what I started doing is I would take a section of the store I at least liked and then I started using the camera feature on my phone because sometimes I learned this, months later. When I would use the camera feature on my phone and point it over the product, it would pull up several other listings that maybe were on Amazon that weren't attached to that barcode. And sometimes those listings were the more profitable or better listing, or they might have been a bundle that somebody created where we'll use Doritos as an example. Maybe they took the nacho cheese Dorito and also the, hot fire flavored Dorito and made a bundle out of it. And that one was the profitable listing. Moving forward to today's times, if I'm trying to find new stuff, I take a photograph when I'm at the store of a row or a section that I think looks interesting. And then I come home while I'm relaxing on the couch and I start typing in those products on Amazon. I find it's easier to research at home looking directly at Amazon's catalog to see what other kinds of listings might be for that product. Are there bundles? And is there maybe a flavor that's on that shelf that doesn't exist on Amazon? And if we're talking food, of course, with a flavor, I certainly now would recommend Keepa. Then you didn't need Keepa. Now I don't make a purchasing decision for an existing listing on Amazon without looking at Keepa because you can look up something and it can look very profitable. It's like, oh wow, this is selling for $50. My buy cost is 10. I'm going to make, $35 after Amazon's fees. But the sales rank, maybe it showed that it sold one in a year. And somebody may accidentally have bought 10 of this item because they thought it looked good, but it's a product that doesn't even sell at all. If I'm making a bundle in my own item, as far as a new product research process, I am going to look at listings that are comparable or of items that are very similar to mine. And are they doing well? Is there too many of them? Is it flooded? There's a lot of things that I ask myself. So let's say we're going to, Halloween season is coming up. Let's say that there is, which there is because I saw it, a plastic black cat at the 99-cent store. I'm going to look on Amazon either through my phone or at the store for little cat props for Halloween. If I see that there are a few other listings for these Amazon cats and I look at Keepa and I see, wow, last year they sold really good and the year before that they sold really good, but it's not flooded on Amazon. I'm making an educated decision that this little black Halloween cat prop is going to do pretty good. And so I will buy those cat props and I will take a photo of it, fix it up in Canva, and I will create my listing for it.
What do you use to take your photo?
I use my iPhone. I take
Ooh,
my items outside. I have a table. It's next to my house, so it's not in direct sunlight, so it's filtered light. I get my best, what is it? What's it called? Photo exposure or whatever. They look definitely more clear and crisp. Sometimes I lay it on my patio, so concrete is behind it. I upload them into Canva and I do the background remover. In bundles, I teach how to make your photos look really clever in Canva, especially when you're doing bundles. Um, and that's really all I do. It's as simple as that. You just got to learn to play around with them, resize them. And that's how I do my photos when I'm making my own listing. Or if it's from a wholesaler, I ask them, do you have stock photos that I can have? Because obviously their photos are going to be so much better than what I can do.
that's a great tip.
Yeah, so you're going to learn a lot in bundles once you get going through those videos. And because you are in the Facebook group, you can always ask the questions of where you're struggling with. Because if you are struggling with something, that means I didn't do a good job teaching it, or maybe I need to make a more clear video explaining that process. Because I feel everybody should understand it and not feel still confused. Otherwise, I feel like that's a reflection on what I'm, you know, teaching you. Cindy says bundles sound like making a gift basket, and they can be. They really can be like that. I've seen some really cool bundles on Amazon when I am searching either for personal to find something for myself, and I think, wow, why didn't I think of that? What a cool idea.
I've actually seen some really unique drink bundles.
Mm,
So I'm obsessed with the Fairlife protein shakes.
yeah,
And I saw someone selling like 3 different flavor variety pack.
that's exactly a perfect idea for a bundle. The problem is today with doing that is that when it's a branded item like that, see, that used to be my bread and butter, was taking things like that, branded items, and putting them together. You'll see a lot of listings on Amazon. I use Crystal Light as an example a lot, or Kool-Aid, where you'll see the bundles where somebody put together 3 flavors of Crystal Light together in a listing. And those listings always did phenomenal. Amazon has slowly been pulling these listings down because people who created those listings put it under like a generic name, which is what I used to always do. I have my brand name that I use on Amazon. People will use generic because it's easy to do. Everybody used to be able to list on a generic bundled listing. Now, the person who created it can, but Amazon seems to block everybody else from jumping on those listings. In the same time, Amazon is also now giving people potential IP warnings. So it's not coming from Crystal Light saying, hey, you're using our product and our name on this listing and you're not allowed to take your listing down. It's Amazon that's saying, hey, your brand name doesn't match Crystal Light. And so you're getting a ding on your account health page saying possible IP infringement. And now you're having to fight these cases. So that's a new thing with Amazon in the last, I want to say, year. They've been getting harder and harder on that. That has eliminated a lot of the kind of bundles I used to make. I used to make tons of Disney bundles, like that toy booth that we walked through at Amazon. I used to put together a ton of kid bundles. I might have taken a Mickey Mouse throw blanket and put it with a Mickey Mouse plush and some other little like Mickey Mouse stickers or something, we'll say. And I would make these Mickey Mouse cute bundles and I used to sell them all day long. Well, now Amazon is coming after you because you've used the word Mickey Mouse or you've used the word Disney, and Disney's not coming after me, but Amazon is coming after me. So that has really spoiled a lot of bundles that we used to be able to do on Amazon.
Yeah, so and that's the thing, you just have to keep pivoting, right? We have to get more and more creative.
Yes. And I always have done a lot of non-branded bundles. I mean, there's still plenty of opportunity out there for bundles. There's still so much stuff you can bundle. And there are a lot of companies that tell you that you can bundle their product, brand names. Now, is Disney going to let you have that, or are you going to get a letter of authorization from Disney? Highly unlikely, unless you know you're married to the CEO of. But yeah. And Isabella, is this is your friend, right?
Yes.
And she's asking about any online arbitrage tips. And if Isabella, if you've been selling a while, I'm sure that you are doing online arbitrage too. And how about you? Are you doing OA or more RA?
I do about 50% RA, 30% OA, and 20% wholesale.
Yeah, I'm a good mixture too, but I think I am more wholesale than anything at this point in my journey. During COVID, I did OA really for the first time. I always did it a little bit, but I preferred being in the store where I could physically see it and do I like it? Well, during COVID, that changed things. Now I prefer OA over RA any day of the week because it's so much easier to shop from home. There's so many cashback sites. Like we can use Rakuten, Top Cashback, right? And you can get that extra money back on that purchase. And then I have pivoted to using a business credit card that earns travel points. And so I'm just racking up those travel points on my card. Like I've really pivoted to changing a lot with liking the OA so much better. Do you know you can sit with your phone on the couch or at your desk and use your Amazon app, the camera feature? You could be on the web page. Let's say we're looking at Costco and there's bags of raspberry and strawberry tea. You can aim your camera over the computer and pull it up on your Amazon seller account, and so you don't, it saves all the typing, copy pasting. You can just use your camera. It's great.
That is a great tip. Yes, you can scan your computer screen.
Have you done that too?
I have.
I love it. Um, And Michael would like to know what motivates you both. And I would like to hear from you if you would answer that one.
My family, for sure. I have an almost 5-year-old, so that's my motivation.
Is wanting to be home.
Absolutely.
It's like the working at home mom. And I think most moms want that. I talk to very few moms that are like, oh my God, no, thank God I have a job because I need a break. I need to, like, from screaming kids. But most moms want to be home.
Yes, and even if you have a work from home job, you're tied to your desk, you're tied to the phone, you're tied to the computer.
Yeah.
So when you work for yourself, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, I love working from home, and I always really wanted to do that when my boys were little, and now they're grown adults, and I really regret that I didn't get the opportunity to do that. I did get to be home 3 days a week, so I was grateful for that. This type of business and opportunity really wasn't around then. Now, certainly there were people who did, but the internet and dial up came out, when I was in my 20s, and I didn't even have a computer then. It's like, some people have it, just didn't really interest me. And then I did get a computer eventually, but I didn't use it that much. I kind of learned to do online banking on it. And there were people that were making some money on there, but all of that just seemed like unrealistic, unheard of, right? So now the internet has opened up so many opportunities to make money online, and not just with Amazon or eBay. I mean, the possibilities are endless of what you can do from home. You do have to be a self motivator.
Yes, yes, 100%. So I think for the people who are like, "Oh, I want the easy way out. I don't want to work a 9 to 5." Well, then working for yourself or selling on Amazon is definitely not for you
It's not.
because you have to be a hustler. You have to wake up in the morning and have a plan and decide what you're going to do today. What are you going to accomplish? How much are you going to spend? Because that's what's holding me back right now is I'm ready to get to the next threshold, but I have to spend a certain amount to purchase inventory if I want to make X amount in revenue.
Yeah, and then that's when you question yourself, what if I didn't make enough and I can't pay that back, if we're talking about a loan or taking a certain amount out of your checking account. And I think every entrepreneur struggles with that. I took baby steps. I took calculated risks when I started to do that. So I remember I took $2,000 out of my savings account to give that extra, that little extra
Cushion.
boost. I did, and well, not for living, but for Amazon inventory. And I did it during Q4. I feel like if you are going to take a risk ever in Amazon, don't ever take such a risk that would cause hardship on your family. A lot of people have done that and got lucky and it worked great for them. I am so much more conservative and I don't want that kind of a risk. So I like to take those safe risks. Like, okay, if I took this amount of money, how long would it take me to pay it back if it was like I just flushed it down the toilet, right? But that's my personal choice. And I feel like if there's a time that you're going to take a big risk, right during Q4 is that time, because that is a time where the sales really, really skyrocket. And coming into the business during Q4, if that's when you're starting and you do so well, it's not an indicator of like, wow, Amazon's so easy, everything just sells. It truly just is a magical 2 months of time that are just phenomenal.
Yes, Q4 is coming, and I've been trying to prepare for it, and it'll be my first Q4 on Amazon, so I'm very
This is your
excited.
first Q4?
Yes,
And so what month did you really start then this year?
January.
And you are up to how much in sales a month?
I've been averaging about 20K per month,
That
25.
is phenomenal. I didn't do that until after I was on Amazon. Let me see, how long did it take me to get to that? 2 years. 2 years. And that first year, I snowballed everything back into it and didn't take anything out. It was that second year that second year, I was still living off a cushion of savings. And so I think it was a year and a half in before I actually started paying myself back. So I think you're doing phenomenal as a new seller. So you've
Thank
done
you.
really well listening to YouTube videos and making good choices. That's very motivating and inspiring. Good for you.
Thank you.
That is, you should be very impressed and proud of yourself.
I appreciate that. And I'm also conservative like you,
Yeah.
so I think that helps, but you do have to take some risk, and I think
Yeah.
if you're younger and you have the opportunity to take the risk, you need to leap.
Yes. And I know for me, and I don't know if you feel this way, but I know in my earlier years, and even sometimes now, I will see people boast about, oh, I've been doing this, X amount of months and I make X amount of dollars. And I think, man, are they smarter than me? Am I just dumb? Did they get lucky? How come I can't do that? And I work my butt off, right? So I think sometimes a lot of new sellers can tend to compare themselves to people we don't even know that are showing pictures on Facebook about what they've done. Now, I can tell you after working with a lot of coaching students, because I do coaching on the side, and some of them have had those big numbers, but what you don't see is how upside down they are. And that doesn't mean that people definitely do succeed and get lucky and do well. I'm not saying that all of that is fake. That definitely is not true. But there are people that now are in a mountain of debt, or they spent $800 on advertising and they made 400 in sales. And so while those sales numbers may be really, really high, they're in the negative or profiting very, very little. And so sometimes there's really nothing to be jealous of or to compare yourself to. Worry about yourself and worry about doing your best. And that's what I would tell anybody. Don't look at other people's numbers and feel any kind of way about yourself. Um, because you really don't know what the backstory is. Some people also started off with a bigger chunk of change. Like some people went into this business that, I have $20,000 to invest, and maybe they had a person holding their hand saying, look, this sells really good. I know that, look, here's a wholesale account. Like, go to them and buy the, some people had really good help, or they worked in that industry and they already had a wholesale account with this auto supply part company, and they already knew that these things were profitable. People are starting from different places in their life. And if it makes you happy to do this and you want to do it, do it. Do it.
Yes, and I think that you mentioned something that a lot of people overlook is that you should start with what you know, right? So I
Mhm.
sell a lot in the grocery category because I'm a couponer, I'm a mom, I'm always at the grocery store shopping for my family. So anytime I see a new or seasonal item, I'm checking that item, right?
Look, and pumpkin season is here. So that's a good tip. Pumpkin spice, it'll sell.
Yes. Yeah, and I wasn't gonna sell something that I'm not familiar with at first, like
Yeah.
trading cards. I'm not into sports. I know nothing about that, but there's some people who make tons of money selling those things and they start off selling those things because that's what they know.
Yeah, and a lot of guys like shoes, guys really like shoes and Nike, that like feeds to them. And that's one that you have to get ungated in right away. And Michael, I didn't really answer you what motivates me, but what motivated me is at the time, my son now was already grown. And I always did want to be that stay at home mom, but I was at a point in my career that um, I was tired of standing on my feet all day long, and I really loved being home. I lived down the street from my mom. I'm a family girl, and I really wanted to transition and find something I could do that wouldn't require me to be on my feet all day. I was already an entrepreneur because I did hair for a living and I had owned a few hair salons. And so I already had that self motivating entrepreneurial spirit. And towards the end of my career cutting hair, while I was doing Amazon, my son was in a horrific automobile accident that almost took his life. He was in the ICU, or trauma unit. I'm sorry, the trauma unit before he got to the ICU. He was in the hospital for 3 weeks. And I remember at that time going through corporate America because I worked in a casino. So I did hair, but it was under a corporate. Um, all the paperwork and stuff, hoops I had to jump through to be approved for this like temporary FMLA time off while I'm juggling being in ICU, worrying about my son. And I just remember feeling like, you know what, effing fire me then. I don't care about like because I thought I never want to be put in this position again. If my loved one is in the hospital and fighting for their life, I want to be there and not worried about what my boss is telling me. I just remember something, it flipped a switch in my head that I thought never again. I was mad. I was mad. And when I went back to work, while I loved my job, something forever in me was changed after that experience. And I was hell-bent on, I will never um, be dependent on a traditional job. I'm not against them. If I had to work part time, that was fine. But I want to be self reliant to take care of myself without having to have a job. I wanted that, and that is how I created this lifestyle. And and that's what motivates me. What motivates me is if my mom calls me and she's like, "Oh, hey, I really need your help. Can you come help me with this thing at my house?" Where I can, pause my computer and say, "Sure, mom, I'll be right over there." And I love the freedom it's given me. I left my job, was it 2018? I always have to Google it. I forget the morning. And I worked at Bellagio here in Las Vegas. When I woke up, my first day of being unemployed was the October 1 shooting that was here. So my last day at my job was the last day of September because I woke up my first day of like, I don't work at Bellagio anymore, to the news on TV that that gunman had shot everybody at the concert. I think that was 2018. It's easy to Google because it was a big event. And yeah, so that's how I always know the anniversary of when I left my job. Do I miss it? People ask that. Sometimes I do. I really loved my job. I worked at a great hotel. I got to meet celebrities. I got to cut celebrities' hair. You always had people who were there in a great mood and attitude because they were on vacation. Um, My coworkers were great. It was a beautiful property and hotel to work at. I was proud to work there, but I was also ready to not depend on it, and I liked being home. So sometimes I miss it. Would I go back and do it full time like I did? No.
That's an incredible story, Tina.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, sometimes I don't share those things very often, but maybe I should be more personal on YouTube. It's like awkward silence. Now what? Is there any other thing you want to share, or is there anybody watching that has any last questions that you want to ask?
I'll share something.
Okay.
So I feel like there's so many different ways you can do Amazon, which I love. You know, you could do arbitrage where you're reselling, or you could do wholesale, private label, and create bundles where it's your own listing, your own products, your own brand. So there's so many different layers. And I love that because you can do a little bit of everything, right? You don't have to do all or nothing. And
Right.
sometimes, though, I feel like when you're reselling, resellers get kind of a bad reputation.
Yeah.
And that that bothers me sometimes because there are some people who can't make it to the store or they don't want to go to the store. They'd rather order from Amazon. So when the resellers are posting things online for sale, they're doing a service for the people who can't make it to the store to find this product. Or what if they live in a rural area and can't get this item?
And
So
then what and that is a good point, because another thing, because I've seen, people complain, like, in forums where people love Legos or people love the Squishmallow. It's like, and I pass this person and they'll take a picture, and they had 10 in their cart, and it really ticks them off. I understand where they're coming from, because they just want that one for their kid. And it's like, and here's this greedy SOB with a cart full of them. It's like, I get why they're mad. And then what makes them more mad is when they go to get it online, it costs $100 when I could have just got it at the store for 20 bucks if this Joe Schmo over here didn't fill up his cart with them. What they don't understand is the reason why we have to charge the $100 for it, maybe not for Squishmallow, but a lot of the things is Amazon's fees are so high, right? Like, I have a coffee I used to sell, and I've told this story to a lot of different people. And this coffee, in the beginning, I used to buy it for 10 and I used to profit $10 on it. It was fabulous. Now, Amazon's fees on that particular coffee, their fees is $11. It costs me 10. Amazon's fees are $11, and right there we're already at $21. I have to price it higher than $21 to make a profit. So if I sell it for $22, I'm only making a dollar what they can get in the store for 10. So they're mad at me for selling it, for $30. Amazon forces us to, because the fees are so high, and the shopper doesn't understand that. So when they're leaving that bad feedback, like, well, you can get it at this store for so much, and these resellers, they should really be in trouble for doing this. They don't understand our end of it. I would love to be able to sell it for cheaper. I would love the fees to not be so high. I would sell more of them.
I agree completely.
Yeah. So, with that, I guess we can end this live. There are no more questions. I so appreciate you being on here. And I hope that those that find this video that are a newer seller, that you spoke to them, that they learned something from that. Sometimes I feel like the newer, or the ones that are seeking to do this, get a little bit left behind and a little lost in what they should do. And for those of you that are new to watching, I also have a Facebook group that you could join. I'm not sure if the link is below this video, because I forgot what I included in the details of this video, but come on over to the Facebook group and we'll see you there.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.